and welcome to another Unity 5 tutorial. This tutorial is for name declassified. That's not me declassifying their name, that is their actual username. So thank you for the recommendation. This is something that a lot of people want to know how to do, and I remember when I started using Unity, it was one of the first things I wanted to know how to do, and especially when they changed to Unity 5 with the graphical user interface. It was sort of a hot topic, and it is how to put a health bar on the screen and to control it. Now, it's quite a straightforward process, and I'll show you it. This should be quite short tutorial, but knowing me, I'll probably waffle on with some other facts and figures, but bear with me. So we've got Sporty Granny here again. This is Sporty Granny from the Mechanim tutorial for Basics, I think it's called, and she just will run around and leap in the air. Now, what I've done differently with Sporty Granny in this case is add a death animation. So if we just go to here, I had a death animation that I used a while ago, and if you go to my website and look on the tutorials link, there's a whole download document on a zombie Sporty Granny game where she's got some animations on her where she will die. So she uses this zombie death animation, and all I did to include it in the previous project, the one that I had in the other tutorial, was just to get hold of the zombie death .fbx file and drag it in with the rest of the animations that are already in here. So I didn't have to go back to Mixamo and go through the whole process. So if you want to add animations to your character, know that you don't have to add all of them in Mixamo and download it. You can just get the FBX file that you want for a particular animation and then merge them in Unity, which I've done here. Now I've dragged this zombie death onto the screen. It's not as vicious as it sounds. It's just a really sort of cool death animation. I'll just show you what it looks like. Go to here. And sorry, if I go back to Animator, I'm going to set this to the default. And when we play it, yeah, it's pretty cool. In fact, you don't even see it when you're playing in third person, but what the hey. So go back to here, go back to Happy Idle as our default state. So the transition to get to this zombie death, I've got a transition from Happy Idle, I've got a transition from the jump, and I've got a transition from the running in place. And I've created a new trigger, which is called is dead, and that is placed, as you can see over here in the inspector, on these three transitions. Okay, so when our code triggers the is death, that will then play that. Okay, so the idea is that there's going to be a health bar, and when it rocks down to 0, the death animation will play. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is have some kind of internal system that's keeping track of Granny's health. And I'm going to create an empty game object. And I'm going to call it Player Manager. And onto this Player Manager, we're going to add a script that keeps track of everything. So go into Project, create C# script, and I'll call this Player Manager as well. Okay, drag that onto Player Manager and just drop it there, and you should see it in the inspector. Okay, let's go ahead and open that up in our editor. Now, in here, we're going to have health as a value, and we're going to make it public, static, what is it, an int, health. Now in the beginning, we're going to set this to 100 so that it's at full health. To decrement the health just by the time the game has been running, let's create a function and let's call it reduce health. And inside here, we're going to put health equals health minus, let's make it quite severe at the moment because we don't want to sit here and watch the health go down slowly and then Granny dies. We want to speed this whole thing up for ourselves so that the effect's more obvious. Now, in the start function, I'm going to invoke repeating that reduce health. So invoke repeating will call a function using its name after a certain amount of time. So we're going to say after 1 second of the game playing, we're going to run this reduce health. And then the next thing gives you how often after that first time do we keep reducing health. And we're just going to say 1 second again so that it's quite quick. So in the space of about 5 seconds, she's going to be health equals 0. So, okay, so that's reduce health. Now, the other thing we will do is when health reaches 0, we want to kill Granny off. So if health is less than or equal to 0, then we will play that death animation. Okay, now to do that, we need to pass through our player up here. And we need hold of the player so that we can get hold of her animations that are attached to her. So if we save that and switch back to Unity's editor and just select our player manager, we'll be able to see that the player is now exposed in the script. So we can grab Sporty Granny and just drag and drop her onto there. So that back in the script, we'll now have access to her animation set. So we can go if health is less than, excuse me, 0. I'm just going to place this in here. Then we get the animator component that is attached to the player. And then we do a set trigger is dead. So that's going to call that trigger that we just created and run the death animation. Right, so let's save that. And we'll just go back to here and run it. Okay, so after, what did I say, 5 seconds, she should die. There we go. Okay, so that was her health reducing. Now, the whole idea of having a health bar is knowing when death is imminent. So let's go ahead and add a health bar. The health bar is going to be made from an UI slider. So in the hierarchy, if we right click and go down to UI and then look for slider, which is just here, and select that, it'll create a slider, and you can see we've got one in the center of the screen, which will be attached to a canvas. If you don't have a canvas, it will automatically add it for you. And then there's an event system that's also automatically created, and that's sort of the interface between the player and the game itself. So all the games that have these UI elements need these event systems. You don't really need to worry about it for now, actually, so because we're not really using it. So we've got this slider, and it's got a whole heap of bits and pieces about it. Now, you probably want the health bar to sit up in this top corner. Okay, so with the slider selected, go over to the inspector and you're going to see this little target box for in the rect transform. If you click on that, it allows you to set the position and the pivot position of that slider, and we want to put it up in this top corner. So if we select it, and then if we also hold down shift and then select it, which is going to move our pivot point, and I know you can't see anything else happening at the moment, then hold down the Alt key and press it. And now everything is up in this top corner, including its pivot. So it doesn't matter how big this screen becomes, that's going to stay jammed up in the top corner, which is what we want. Now, it's probably a little bit too close to the left-hand side, so we can just go over here and modify its X position and drag it across a little bit, and you might even want to bring it down like that, and you can also change the height if you want to make it look a bit fatter there. Now, one thing that differentiates the health bar from an actual slider is that a health bar doesn't have this slider button on it. So if you open up the slider and have a look at the children, you'll see it has a handle slide area, and that's this thing here, and we don't want it. So guess what? Hit delete and it's gone. Okay, this thing that's left over is not the handle, it's actually the inside of the slider. A slider has two areas. It has a background, which is currently all of this bit, and we're going to set its color to red. So there. So the image itself you can change. It comes with a default image, which looks like this, and it's good enough for our purposes now. If you want to get fancy, you can put your own images in here. And then it also has this other fill area, which is this tiny little bit here, and that indicates the value on the slider. And we're going to change it to green. Okay, so we do that in fill, and then over in its image, we change it to green. So it's both of these things have these images attached, which dictates what it's going to look like. Now, going back to the slider itself, I just slide down here, you'll see that it has a minimum and a maximum value. Now, it's currently set between 0 and 1, and then it has this value slider, which is set to 0. Now, if we move this, watch what happens to the slider on the screen. Okay, so it changes, and this makes it perfect for creating a health bar. Now, our health is going to range from 0 to 100. So in this maximum value, we can put in 100. And we want to work with integers or whole numbers, so I'll just click that as well. So now when we're on full health, it will be like that. And when we're on no health, it will be like that. Now, one little irritation with this slider is that when you are on full health, if you have a look in the display, you can still see some red, which is rather annoying. And we can fix that by going into the background of the slider and adjusting the right. See that how it's changing the background, and we can bring that down until it's about there. It's just disappeared. So that now when we slide from 100% health, when we start to reduce it, you'll see the health bar move like that. Okay, so the next step is to grab hold of this slider with our code that is decreasing the health and have it control this value. Okay, so this is the slider and this is the value, and this is what we're going to be controlling in the code. So to control it with the code needs to know about the slider. It currently can't just magically access it. So let's open it up again. Here's our code with our player. We're going to create another public exposed variable, which will be a slider, which is our health bar. Now, if you save this and wait for Unity to update, it's going to give us a nice big fat error that we can see down here. So it says the type of namespace name slider could not be found, and that's because we need to include the using Unity engine .ui. Is it UI or UI? I don't know. I grew up with GUI, so I always still want to call it GUI, but there's no G anymore. All right, so now we've got our health bar here, and we're going to update the value that's attached to that in our reduce health. So we can go down in here and put in health bar dot value equals health, like that. So the health is reduced, and then we use its value to reflect it on the health bar. So we'll save that. It's going to go down pretty quickly, but you can always adjust that later anyway. So let's come back into here. Now with player manager selected, we've now got our health bar exposed in the inspector. Now we want to put the slider in there, not the canvas. So grab the slider and drag it into there. Right, so now when we run it, we'll be able to watch this health go down. And when it gets to 0, she's going to cark it. Well, there we go. Fantastic. Now, if you move the arrow keys, the drive script that's on Granny's still driving her around even though she's dead. You would have to compensate for that in the Granny controls script by testing like is dead. You know, if she's dead, then don't allow the controls to work. I'm not going to bother right now with doing that, as I'm only illustrating this health bar. Great. So the health bar is going down. Let's go back just for a moment to Player Manager, and we'll just decrease the health a little slower. Let's make it 5. That should be a little slower, but enough that we see it happening. And we'll just run it again and run around. Okay, so we're losing health because we're tired from running around. Okay, now I could leave it there, but what I'm going to show you is how to increase your health. So we're going to put a few objects around that we can pick up to get our health back. Right, once again, I have trawled through the asset store and I found this chest. I've used it before actually. It's quite a nice little model, and imported it into my scene, into my project, and I've also downsized it because it's actually really large and made a prefab out of it. So here it is. I'm just dragging that into there. You can see it's already got a mesh collider on it, and we'll just work with one at the moment. Now we're going to collide with the chest and pick up our health, and when we pick up the health, it will add value to the health value that is in the Player Manager. So let's create a script that we can sit on that chest. So C# script, let's call it pickup. And we will attach that to, where's my chest prefab? There. Okay, now let's just open up that script. Now, the nice thing about having made this a public static int for health is we can access it in this script quite easily. Now, we want to add a collider or a trigger. We could use a trigger because that will then mean that Granny won't be hit by the chest. She'll just run straight through it. So that's a void on trigger enter. And inside that is, if I remember rightly, collider other. So when this trigger happens from a rigid body and a collider colliding into the chest, it's going to trigger this function here. And in here we can go player manager dot health plus equals, what do we pick up? 5 for the chest. Now notice how I'm accessing this health that's back in here. I can access it in this way because I've made it a static. So player manager dot health, all because of this static, or public static I should say, which is really nice way, an easy way to access things that are in other scripts. Right, let's save that. So we'll run it to try it out. So press play and then try and run through here. And we notice that nothing is happening for a number of different reasons. First of all, Granny does not have any colliders or rigid bodies on her. So we need to add a rigid body, and we'll turn off the gravity and make it is kinematic. And then we're going to also add a collider, and I'm just going to add a box collider because that's just easy to do right now, and I'm just going to resize it a little bit and then move it up just to fit Granny. Okay, that's good. Now the treasure chest itself, if we have a look at the mesh collider, it's not a trigger, so we need to turn that on as a trigger. so that it will run that on trigger. Now if we run it, we'll just wait for the health to go down a little bit and then we'll walk through. Okay, so walk through this chest, we should pick up 5. Whoops, turn around again, went too far. It is going up. You can see it. It's just it's in conflict with the decreasing health as well. Let's just let's see, change this pickup value to give some good health. Let's give us 20 health. That would be good. We'll really notice it. So if we run it and let the health go down a fair bit, then we run over the chest, we should pick up. There we go. We saw it picking up there. Okay, great. So that's working. Something else you might want to do in here, I've just got a debug line in there so I could see that it was working, but you could also put something like destroy this dot, this game object. And that will have the chest destroyed after you've walked over it so that you can't pick it up again. And that means now that we've got this chest here, we can apply all the prefab stuff we've put on it and actually Control D and make a whole bunch of them and scatter them all around the environment for running over and picking up. To modify the health, and then we could make the health go down faster. What do we set it to? 10. Let's go down to there and run it. Okay, so if we let it go down for a little bit, and then we just have to run around and pick up health to try and stay alive. And then when we do run out completely, the death animation will play. Okay, there we go. Right, so that's a simple health bar there and the code for it. As I sign off for today, I'm just going to play a little bit of a animation that I've added on to Granny that I've used in the past. I hope you enjoy it. A little bit of belly dancing. It's not connected up to the death animation, so it's not going to be triggered. Anyway, I hope you found this health bar tutorial useful and hope you enjoyed it. Please check out my other tutorials and I'll talk to you all again soon.